All right, guys. So I'm really happy to announce to have the crew of Graveyard Carz here today. Thank you guys for being here. Go ahead and introduce yourselves, and then we'll hit you with the questions.
Probably the most important one, Mark Warman. I'm the leader in the Star Graveyard Carz. I'm the one that invented it. So the other three guys, whatever. Go ahead.
I'm Josh. I'm Mark's unfortunate son-in-law.
That's plenty. Royal.
Yep.
Royal. That's enough. Darren.
I am Darren.
And that's good. Go.
This actually comes from a question from one of my subscribers, the Dark Side Font 360. He wants to know how you got into the biz. And then my question, which it should segue into it, what inspired you to start a TV reality show?
So I suppose what you're asking is how is it that I do what I do without prior experience such as college and work the miracles that I do. So I'm just paraphrasing. Graveyard Carz was started as a need to record the restoration of a 71 Cuda that one of my clients had purchased. Right after we had bought the car, rumors started kind of floating around the Mopar circles. You know, every hobby has a circle of people, and the Mopars are no different. So the guys out there that knew of the car, knew how bad it was. It was a 71 Cuda 446 barrel, 4-speed car. Assumed that we were just going to cut the numbers out of the body and put them into a nice body, like a nice Barracuda shell. And that's called rebodiing. It's not only is it not what I do, but it's also against the law. And so that's kind of what spurred me on to come up with the idea of filming the entire restoration so that I can prove we have the talent and the skill, and we'll keep our word and actually restore the car that we bought. I hired a young guy that had just graduated the U of O, University of Oregon, Aaron Smith, and asked him to kind of follow me around and document the restoration. Aaron was over there for the day filming, and at the end of the day, he said, "You guys are hysterical." Says, "That's the funniest group of guys I've ever worked with. Does this go on all the time?" I don't know what you're talking about funny, but yes, that's what we do. Because you have the banter and the insults and the snapping back and forth. Well, I snap a lot more that way than they snap back. They're not as quick on their feet.
Quick-witted.
Yeah. So anyway, that kind of got my my mind thinking, well, okay, so what would happen if we were to try to orchestrate something a little more organized, something along the lines of a overhauling with Chip Foose or an American Chopper or a Pimp My Ride type of format. And really, as they say, that's, you know, the rest of the story goes on from there. We just continually built and grew and have made it into what we have today.
That was a really long answer.
Yeah. Any questions for us?
Okay, yeah, go ahead with those. Sorry about that.
Are you guys family men?
Very much.
Yeah.
Yes, single parent.
Was the whole crew on board with the idea? And if not, who did you have to convince? Because I know sometimes with me, if I had a family situation, there's a lot of banter in the shop that I don't want kidding out.
Right, right. Well, yeah, that's the power of editing. There's a lot of stuff that goes on that doesn't get out. Why are you have the nervous
Don't worry about it. Just answer the question.
Well, it's just you
Don't,
that nervous
you know what,
laugh?
dude? You ignore me all the time, so just
Can I talk?
do like, please do.
He's asked me a question. What was the question? Royal and I grew up together, so we've been friends since we were about 12 years old. So pretty much if I told him to jump off a building, he'd do it. I wouldn't for him, but he does for me, and that's the kind of relationship that we've established. But anyway, we're good friends, and we work together forever. And I don't think that until the last probably 8 months, he believed it would be much more than humoring me type of thing. But now that he's seen it metastasize and grow, and that we're coming out on a Discovery Channel and that we're airing in over 30 countries, I think he realizes that it might work out. Yeah.
I get it.
Darren is a naysayer even up to 2 minutes before we Skyped in here. 2 minutes before we Skyped in, he was saying something about he never gets anything. When is he going to get his share? And what were the other things you were asking about?
Royal needs a new truck.
Yeah. When Darren wants something, he doesn't say Darren wants something. He says, you should get Royal a new truck. Josh is 100% behind me. The guys that you see sitting at the table are really, honestly, they've been behind me. And I think had a lot of faith in what I'm doing, or they wouldn't have been there.
Do you guys film every day?
No. We average between 2 and 3 days a week that we actually do filming on Graveyard Carz.
And has the show created more stress or drama amongst you guys?
Mark does that.
Well, nobody asked you, Uncle Fester.
Oh, sorry.
I think he's talking to me.
Let Royal answer.
Okay, Royal, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, please.
Go ahead,
I
Royal.
don't want to hug my anyway. What was the question again? Drama?
Stress.
Mark-
Stress now. No.
I think it's actually brought us closer together, not to sound weird or anything, but I think we get along better now knowing that there's a future at the end and it's not all just my dreaming. Because I think that's what, along the way, even though I knew in my mind where we'd be, they now that they believe in it, now that they see the fruits of it, I think we get along better. I think we're all, maybe, am I right that we're all working a little closer together than we did before?
Deep down, we're all really here for each other, no matter what. We could sit here all day and call each other names, but no matter what kind of stress goes on, we're all family.
Do a lot of that stuff out there myself, anyway. But it is nice to have a few guys to help lift some of the heavy stuff around the shop. So.
I could probably count on one hand, maybe minus one finger, how many times all of us together have been complimented by Mark.
So is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It is a good thing.
We don't
because
expect much.
yeah, exactly. Thank you, Royal. We do not expect anything.
So you're saying that it doesn't happen often?
No. No, it does not.
Well,
but when it does, we know that we've done something to penetrate in his mind, and that's a good thing.
Hysteria City. How did that photo shoot go? How did you guys get in contact with him? Did you actively seek like a haunted house, or did he find you? Or tell me about that.
Darren, why don't you tell them about
Well, I
the
don't
haunted?
know all the facts. and how they've
Okay,
done this
Royal,
thing.
you want to tell them about it?
No, Mark, you're the one
Josh?
that took care of that.
You want to tell them about it?
Go ahead, Mark.
This is why. I just save these guys the embarrassment. They
What are you
don't know all the
talking about?
details that go on behind it.
We don't.
Scott Michael, I met him a few years ago when at the very beginning of the Graveyard Carz, told him about what I was doing. He told me about those cool haunts that he's built, and I said, well, someday we'll be able to hook up and do something. Then we had a Charger Daytona come out here from New York to have a restoration done on it, and shortly after that we were contacted by a national magazine, Mopar Collector's Guide, #1 Mopar magazine in the world. Wondered if they would be fortunate enough to do an article on us, and I said certainly, that'd be fine. He says, I'd like to put you in the October Halloween issue because of the theme of Graveyard Carz, the macabre and the Halloween type of thing. So we ended up getting hold of Scott and asking him if we could put the Daytona in the haunted house, in the haunted theme park that he has up year round, and he obliged, and we took the car over there, and I think the photo shoot would amazing. I mean, some of those photos have been looked at by thousands of people all over the world.
Who came up with the name Graveyard Carz? Or do I even need to ask?
It's fine, you can ask. Graveyard Carz was my idea, the name. I actually had written down about 5 or 6 different names. One of the things I thought about when we came up with the name Graveyard Carz was the potential for marketing too, and the potential for merchandising. And as Scott would tell you from Hysteria City, the haunted house thing is gaining more steam all the time, and people are doing it almost year round. So the chances that we'll be able to market the theme, the genre, the merchandising, it was just a stroke of genius that I came up with that, I think.
One more question from one of my subscribers, Dabbit353. It's actually specific questions about the 71 Cuda. What kind of suspension modifications did you make? Because back in the day, those cars were rockets in a straight line, but not the greatest on cornering.
Well, we have not actually finished restoring any Cudas on the program. So if they're talking about the Cudas that we're working on about 4 Cudas right now. We have a 71 446 barrel that was the pioneer for the restoration, or for the show itself, the one that got us started. And then there's a 71 344 speed triple black Cuda that is now in the final assembly stages, a 70 Cuda 383 automatic FE5 rally rail with a black top and black guts. and another 71 444 speed Hemi Orange Shaker hood Cuda. None of those cars have gotten suspension put underneath them just yet. But what we will be installing underneath them is the stock OEM, which stands for Original Equipment Manufacturing suspension. So the guy that wrote in is right. They pretty much didn't handle that great. Some models did better. Well, yeah, actually the guy that owns the 7383 car does have a Magnum Force front suspension coming in with tubular A-arms. So he is making some changes to it at his request. I've never actually installed that because the restorations that we do are always just original. But he's right. The factory, they were a go line in a straight line fast, and they left a lot to be desired in the lateral acceleration or handling, if you will.
Tell us something that you guys haven't been, and each one of you that have not asked in an interview yet that you think would be interesting that people don't know about you. I know I'm putting you on the spot, huh?
I'm actually a carpenter by trade. I left the automotive trade to become a carpenter in 1990. Been doing that since, except for Saturdays coming down and working on these cars here.
He was also bald when he came out of the womb, so that's not like male pattern baldness or something. That's actually
just
the way
more
he started
hydrodynamic.
Darren? Tell people something.
Don't go crazy now.
I'm not doing anything. I'm sitting here.
Okay. Something, we may add here is we do not have a script here. This is not scripted like when we go out in the shop.
We've been asked that 100 times.
Have we been asked that? I've been asked that.
Okay, yeah, they've asked.
Hey, I got a better idea. Let Mark answer.
No, I don't want to. I want you to tell them something.
Well, no, you didn't. You interrupted.
Okay, here, I'll break the ice.
Okay.
Go ahead.
But here I just do suspension and steering.
Bogart in the camera.
Way to go, Roy.
From nose coming out from behind.
Nobody was talking. I mean, you guys were talking. I'm not saying anything.
Yeah, Royal is actually still bitter about what Mark said once in a major magazine. And it was very untrue about what Mark said. It's very cruel.
What did I say?
And cut right to Royal's heart.
What did I say?
That Royal had limited knowledge.
Oh, well.
No.
It wasn't true. It's so untrue.
So it was true. You did say that.
I didn't say it. They were paraphrasing.
But it's totally opposite. Royal has a lot of knowledge, and if it wasn't for Royal, Mark could not do this.
Mark could do it. It just would take him longer.
I grew up in Kansas. I used to play semi-professional paintball for about maybe 6 years with a great bunch of guys. And after I graduated high school, I moved out here to Eugene, Oregon. And I started to go to school for a little while doing graphic designing. Then I got into the automotive industry, and I started detailing cars for probably 5-6 years. And then finally, I just, out of the blue, one day I met Mark's daughter, and then here I am.
You met her on MySpace, didn't you?
No.
You met her in person?
Oh, you really want to know how your daughter met me?
Well, yeah.
I was going to the gas station.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, to the gas station, and I was a bit concerned on why this person was tailgating me with about 3 inches from my bumper.
Okay. So it was my daughter?
Your daughter.
Driving the car that I gave her for her 16th birthday.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, and I had a big old huge Jeep Wrangler at the time, and yeah, she pulled up, and that was love at first sight.
So it was my daughter was following you, that's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. And why wouldn't she, for God's sake?
I know.
I think she was on medication.
I know you are right now, aren't you?
Yeah.
What Josh is trying to say is he married into this.
Thank you.
Darren, go ahead.
Thank you. I believe in fate.
I live in Marcola, Oregon, which is not far from Springfield, Oregon. And this is where I've grown up my whole life. What's that, Mark?
What?
Anyway, I had Mopars when I first started with cars when I was 16, 17 years of age, and I've always loved Mopars. And somehow I had the privilege of meeting Mark Warman, and it just went on from
First time I met him, I had my wife, God rest her soul, with me in the car, and we went out to his house, and right after...
Just saw his face.
She's not dead, I'm just kidding. He was curb stoning cars back then. He was selling it out of the paper. I read about it. I went up. I looked at it. The car had been in a flood. He failed to mention that in the ad. Floods are kind of big. One of those things you probably want to mention along with maybe a dent or a ding, you know, and it's been in a flood. But he didn't. So we just kind of chatted there for a second. I made the terrible, horrific mistake of saying I'd sure like to find like a 55 to 57 Chevy sometime, be kind of a fun project. And he went berserk and forced us at gunpoint into the car and took us back up into the woods to show us a 56 Chevy. He didn't really have a gun, but he took us up there and looked at a 56 Chevy a friend of his had that was it for sale? Yeah, it was for sale. And then we came back, dropped him off at his house. As soon as he got out of the car, my wife said, God, he's obnoxious. That was her first impression. Darren Kirk had. Now, most people don't know that. That's a good thing.
I'm a huge concert enthusiast. I love going to metal concerts.
What metal concerts have
I
you
think
ever
he's
been
banged
to?
his head a few too many times.
Name one metal concert you've been to.
Bands like that you would know?
Well, sure.
Let's see here.
You've been to Stones, Zeppelin?
I've seen Ted Nugent.
Okay. Ted Nugent has
Yeah.
been cool since 1978.
Okay, I've seen Skinner. Of
Wango,
course, not the
Tango.
original. but
The
I-
Wango, the Tango.
Okay, bands that I like
Off of
In Flames,
His Intensity and
Suicide
Intensities
Silence.
album. I'm sorry. Go ahead. What were you
Oh,
saying?
no, that's fine.
What is the name of the band?
do you
Name
mean?
one band that you've seen that I recognize the name.
Okay, well, I just got done telling you one.
Ted Nugent.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Well, he hasn't played
Leonard
music.
Skinner. No,
Oh,
Mark,
Skinner?
this was in Kansas.
Oh, you saw Skinner?
Yes, I
Oh,
seen
that's
Skinner.
all right.
Not the original,
I'll
like
give you
I
a
said.
thumb sideways on Skinner. What else?
I have seen Ozzy, yes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Metallica?
Have seen Metallica,
Well,
yes.
I apologize.
AC/DC?
Never seen AC/DC.
Wow.
Kiss?
I knew that was way too
Never seen
cool.
Kiss.
Corn.
Have seen Korn.
Penny drop.
Something he can relate to.
Love Korn.
I guess I'll ask Mark because I think that's the intelligent thing to do. What do you want to say about the show? I mean, this is your time right now.
If you don't mind. It's funny.
No.
Go direct the mic like
Oh, yes,
that.
buddy.
There is nothing made before or ever will be made again as unique as Graveyard Carz. And if you watch it and you actually watch the layers that are put into it intentionally, and at the end of this season, at the end of the first season, you're going to realize that you know more about Mopars than the guy next door that didn't see the show, more about collectability, more about the restoration process, how history can affect these cars. There's so much history in this. There is more history knowledge in Graveyard Carz than there is in any show that uses the word history in it. We go back and track these cars down. We find the original motors when they're available, the original transmissions. They can add 20, 30, 40% to the value of the car. We'll look high and low for the original hood that came off a car even though it was damaged. And in the process, you find out the history of the car and the people that were driving the car at the time. Immediately drops you back into that time period, whatever it was. We went on a treasure hunt one time on this 71 Cuda, and it was cool because we went into this little town where the car had been wrecked and parked in 1980, and had a Polaroid of the car setting in a storage yard that would happen to be a school bus storage yard the day after it was wrecked, July 5th, 1980. We were able to go out to the site and nothing except the buses had changed about that spot. We could line up the two telephone poles perfectly in sync with the picture that was in our left hand and actually plant that car right there and know that that's where that car sat nearly 30 years earlier. That's fun stuff. I think that is half of the fun of what we do, is hunting down the cars, the parts, and the stories behind them. And then when the car is done, reuniting it with possibly one of the original owners. We have a lot of things like that planned for season 2. We didn't get an opportunity to do it in season 1, but we have the names of people who actually owned the cars originally, and we plan on introducing them with the car, or putting them back together again, at least for a photo shoot.
Speaking on behalf of, a lot of people that don't know a lot of stuff about Mopars, I mean, it's an honor to be sitting at the table, not only with this dude, but, Darren and Royal as well, because, I mean, every day is just a history lesson. You learn so much.
Well, and what I think you're saying, too, is that with the Chrysler car, the Mopar, there's more science in that car than there is in any other car made. They actually put serial numbers on the motor, the transmission. They put date codes on bolts. They put certain finishes and polishes on things that we have to go back and duplicate, right down to if a screw was a number 8 screw, 3/4 of an inch long with a countersunk head and a number 2 Phillips on it. We got to find that screw, that very screw, and make sure that it looks exactly the way it did when it rolled off the assembly line the day the car was made. And we have the books and the knowledge and the history to be able to do that.
Anybody that likes cars would like the show.
I don't even
Not
think you have to
just-
like cars. I think everybody would like the because there is so much more than just that too, though.
History.
You know, you're watching it.
Yeah, we just try to keep it, you know, really
Really
diverse. Just really diverse and try to get everybody involved in it.
So like you were saying, it being multi-layered, it's not just, you know, banter in the shop and the shop. It sounds like you guys have gone out on location filming to go through the history.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of dimensions to the show. The 71 Cuda that, again, is the 446 barrel car. That's the one that started the whole idea for the program. Was wrecked so badly back in July 5th, 1980. And we had heard so many stories about how it was wrecked that, like you might find on History Detectives or CSI, Casey Ferris, one of the guys that works here, my right-hand man, my toucan Sam, my can of Spam, my green eggs and ham. And Sam. And Sam, you're my right-hand man too. He duplicated the crash in 3D. He actually built the entire scene, duplicated it based on the impacts to the car that we could see really happen, regardless of what people said happened in all the stories. We could take the front aprons that were pushed over to the right and the front rails that were over to the right and the left quarter panel that was high and over to the right and duplicate and come up with the real story of what happened to the car. And what was weird was when we finally talked to the guy who really wrecked the car, it matched.
I've got an 86 Ford Bronco too, if you guys want to have a whack at it.
That connection. Can you still hear me? Still there? I don't hear it anymore.
I thank you all for taking the time to sit down and talk to me, and I do wish you all the very best with the series. It premieres on Velocity on April 20th at 8 p.m.
That's a lie. We didn't know it was a lie when we said it 2 weeks ago when Discovery told us when it was. Be sure to watch Graveyard Carz U.S. premiere at 10 p.m. May 31st on Velocity. And happy haunting, everybody.
Happy haunting.
Haunting.
Hey, buddy.
Excellent. That's a wrap.
Awesome.